Hello, and welcome to the virtual conference stand for the Lib Dem Friends of Palestine. My name is John McHugo, and I'm introducing our stand because I was the first chair of the Lib Dem Friends of Palestine when it was set up in 2005. These days I write history books about the history of the Middle East. In my career I was a lawyer working in many Arab countries, and I studied Arabic and did research into medieval Islamic studies at university before I began my career. And all that time, I've been constantly frustrated by the way in which the Arab world is perceived and thought of in this country. I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. I'm talking about Orientalism. I'm talking about stereotypes of fat oil sheikhs, suicide bombers, etc., etc. It is only such a tiny part of the picture. The Arab world has many wonderful qualities. Arab people have a humanity that, quite frankly, in this country, we are in danger of losing. So why Palestine? There'll be many people who say Palestine gets too much attention as an issue. Well, I would be the first to agree that there are many other international issues we should be looking at. I'm quite involved in Syria, for instance, myself. And we all do what we can to help refugees. And we all do what we can to uphold the international rules-based system that is under such attack at the moment. And international law is a vital part of that rules-based system. And we, as an international party, as the party of international law, must do all we can to enforce international law. And when we were members of the European Union, we fought within the whole framework of the EU for Palestinian rights. Now, why Palestine? Well, first of all, it is obviously a festering wound to this day. Britain has a very particular role here, because in 1923, we accepted the League of Nations mandate over Palestine. And the League of Nations mandate in Article 22 put a very important obligation on us. We undertook a sacred trust of civilization towards the Palestinian people. That's what the wording said. A sacred trust of civilization to uphold their rights to development and ultimately to independence. And we failed them because we finally walked away with our tails between our legs in 1948, abandoning the Palestinian people and everyone else there to their fate. Well, pigeons sometimes come home to roost. When Osama bin Laden started his terrorist operations, the first organization he set up was called the International Alliance Against Jews and Crusaders. And more recently, we have what is known in Arabic as Daesh, which we call the so-called Islamic State. And you know how dreadful and wicked that organization has been, and you know the horrible crimes it has committed. But it uses the lack of justice for the Palestinians as a tool in its recruitment. And the same goes for the late Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, which is still around, by the way. So if we want stability in this world, if we really believe in internationalism, we have to think about the plight of the Palestinians and do whatever we can within the framework of international law to put things right. And that means a peace treaty between the sovereign state of Israel and a sovereign state of Palestine. But the Palestinians' rights have to be acknowledged, and at the moment they are not. Two achievements I'd like to mention as a result of our lobbying. In 2009, after Operation Cast Lead, you remember that Israeli indiscriminate attack on Gaza? Well, we managed to persuade a party conference to pass a resolution calling for all EU trade privileges with Israel to be withdrawn until such time as the siege of Gaza was ended. The siege of Gaza is a war crime because it is a collective punishment, and Israel is still the occupying power for the purposes of international law, which means that ultimately it carries responsibility for the welfare of the people of Gaza. And our other achievement is for the party to back recognition of the sovereign state of Palestine now. So we have achieved something for the Palestinians, and we could achieve a lot more. And I very much hope that if you're not already a member of our party, you will join us. And if you are a member of our party, I hope you'll join us in the Lib Dem Friends of Palestine and help us fight for international peace and justice. Thank you very much for listening to me.